Bueno, entonces estamos en Metepenagiag. ¿Y cómo se llamaba Metepenagiag en Mi'kmaq?
Metepenagiag significa que é a terra dos Mi'kmaq, é isso?
Exacto.
Exato.
¿Que está fría el agua? Ah, pero está bonito el río. Di hola. Pero ya vimos ya la segunda vez, ¿no? Ese mismo lugar. How many people is the capacity maximum?
I think we could have upwards of 3 or 4 people, though usually when it came to using the canoe for fishing, we would have a minimum of 2 at all times, just for a lot of safety precautions. And they say a lot of rules that you see are written in blood, for example. And the rule of having 2 people in the canoe is very much written in blood because there was a lot of incidents where people unfortunately passed away while fishing because there wasn't a second person both keeping it stable and keeping them stable. So it is nothing but plant-gathered materials for all of this, or animal-gathered in the case of that bear.
So what about that seating looks
this,
like a dinosaur or something?
So this actually
What is this?
seating. We just have this skin in here because this is a very important and significant fish here. And you're actually very
That's
right.
a fish? Okay.
And you're very right about the whole dinosaur thing.
Yeah.
Because back when the dinosaurs were roaming around, the sturgeon fish, which the skin is gotten from, would look the exact same.
So it's a sturgeon then?
Yeah, sturgeon.
Okay.
Now, what's really fascinating about sturgeon as a fish is that they have not evolved whatsoever over the course of millions of years. They have stayed the exact same. And the important thing to note is that pretty much almost all fish had skin similarly to the sturgeon fish millions of years ago. Most of them had it removed because they evolved into more streamlined, smooth appearances. Sturgeon did not, and you can see remnants and leftovers of this old fish skin, something that we would have primarily hunted within our rivers. And also part of the reason why the whole 2 people in the canoe rule was written in blood.
So how heavy were they?
400, 500 pounds, guys. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of artifacts here. So in every single dot, there could be hundreds of artifacts laid beneath the ground. The largest sites that we have excavated would be the large dots with the lines. So you guys can see there's quite a lot of excavations. A lot of the value of artifacts comes from information it provides, the age of the artifact. Even just dating how old an artifact is proof that existence happened at that year, at that time, even if you don't know much more beyond that. So for a lot of the artifacts, they are expensive to people because of the authenticity, because of how real a lot of them are. I have this, so in a black market you go, I have this spearhead, and this large spearhead, they told me it was 2,000 years old, and that it would have been used by hunters during those times.
Yeah.
And they could get a lot of money for that, because collectors would go insane over the idea of something like that, which is something we like to avoid because we believe archaeology should be rightfully rested in their right spots where they are meant to be. This is actually where we get our name from. Metepenagiag is a Mi'kmaq word that means the high banks or the rough banks. And we got our name both because of this yearly tradition where we went up onto the high banks and came back down over and over every year to avoid the rising water. But we also got it because it was a significant landmark for our people. It was a very iconic site, the high banks. You usually know what was being talked about when that was mentioned. So I tell them, come up to Metepenagiag so you can come trade. In their mind, they think, okay, so look for the high banks. That's where that community is situated. We can trade from there. And these names help a lot of our early peoples to find each other, to identify very significant landmarks, or even really important hunting or foraging spots as well, as we have names depending on what was abundant, certain plants or certain animals. He's my great-grandfather. Mike Augustine was a very, very well-beloved builder of this community. He went to the Augustine Mound, which was a location that had only been talked about in stories in the community. It was passed down by elders, but not very frequently traveled. And he himself went down when it was threatened by gravel pit operations. It was going to be wiped out. He went there and he stopped those operations from happening at that mound so that we could protect our ancestors that still live, or not live, can't really be living when you're dead, but they still rest in those grounds to this very day. And we didn't retrieve those bodies, we didn't excavate them and bring them out. We didn't want to do anything to them because of how much we respected this as an extremely sacred burial mound.
Right, so you guys can see there, I've had that fire for a while. Would have been going before you guys got here.
And it's kind of falling apart now, but most of the logs are along the sand, which is kind of just what we need for this experience here. Because we're going to be cooking the bread in the sand here. But that's the sound. Also a little water off there. It doesn't contain any sort of material that allows it to rise, so it ends up coming out flat when it's cooked. So that's where flatbreads come from.
I don't think we had baking soda, no. It's part of that is also why it would have ended up as a resulting flatbread as well.
So you'd use those ground fruits,
Yeah.
and what kind of fat?
I think we would quite literally just use the grinded up flour in of itself as a mixture, and then we would add water to create that dough, and we would cook it like that. And obviously it was an incredibly simple and bare bones type meal. Just didn't have very much to it.
You preserve the food for the winter, but
Yeah.
how? Would you use salt or just throw it in the middle of the snow?
Throwing it in the middle of the snow was one of the ways, yes, actually. But in a scenario where we wouldn't have had, if we wouldn't have had access to snow or colder temperatures, a lot of the preserving was how we prepared the food. So a lot of fish, a lot of meat would have been prepared in specific ways, likely with some added salt or something like that to dry it out.
Yeah.
But a lot of food, when it needed to be preserved, was dried out like jerky or mixed up into a type of food that would not go bad after a long time. I think pemmican was one of the names of it. It's a mixture of a lot of different various types of things, but most notably, it's known for being incredibly good at preserving. Alright. So you can see that I've made a bit of a platform there for this bread to go up onto. And I'm just flattening it out and stretching it a little bit more so that it's easier to cover up once I put it in. Just be very careful. I shouldn't be doing this, just pretend I'm not doing this. Putting my foot in here. Now, as we cover it all the way up with this cotton sand. And I'll explain the science behind why this works the way it does and why it is actually a mildly effective cooking method. And I believe the silicon content of the sand is what allows for it to retain the amount of heat that it does.
Yeah.
So we put that bread onto that super hot sand, and the second it makes contact, it immediately forms a fused crust with the sand because of how hot it is. So the sand and the dough, they kind of fuse together to create this crust outer shell. From that outer shell, it'll cook throughout the inside, kind of like an oven. And I should mention, we are cooking it in the sand, so it's not guaranteed to always be completely accurate. This is a fire I'm going to be using to recook your guys' moose meatballs.
You said moose meatballs?
Moose meatballs,
Moose
yes. So, and these are a very, very good recipe by Indigenous Chef Wolfman. And Chef Wolfman uses all sorts of, I think we have some thyme, egg, normally some pepper, but we didn't have any this time around, sage, wild rice, and a few more other small herbs mixed into the moose meatballs. Now to make sure this fire's going. Like magic. It is still very, very hot, but it is in the phase now where it's cooling down really, really, really fast. Usually based on how it looks, the ones that look like this sound like this too. Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah, here, now I'm going to show you guys one more thing before we head in.
What did you say the name was again?
Wintergreen.
Oh, wintergreen.
So you guys can take a leaf here and take a look there. So, as the name describes, it is by definition a wintergreen plant. It does stay green throughout winter. But this is also a plant that has been around here for a very, very long time. Would have been used by my very own ancestors. And the thing is with the oil of wintergreen plant is that it is actually equivalent to a small dosage of aspirin. So if you, so I don't think it's the exact same thing as an aspirin, but it contains a relative of the chemical used in aspirin.
¿Qué estás a comer, José?
Estou a comer carne de alce, mousse, meat e pão acabado de fazer, como vimos ali. Se eu esfregar o pão aqui no azeite, consigo sentir o sabor da carne, que é muito gamey, é tipo carne de casa. Agora vou provar a carne. Sabe a ervas aromáticas. Mas sim, a carne de caça, basicamente.
Now, I do want to mention that there is like a small, like tiny bit of foam built up in there, which is what happens if you overboil it a little bit, which we did. But overboiling it does make it taste stronger with these leaves. And I'll pour it into the white cup here just to show you guys an example of how...
What kind of tea is this?
Wintergreen, same plant I was showing you guys, yeah.
True, okay.
But you guys can see it's a, wow.
Not smaller.
Wow, lucky you guys, this is actually one of the strongest teas I think we've made in a long while. So it should be very, very strong.
Smells good. It doesn't smell the same as the blend though.
Nope. This is a very, very concentrated version of the liquid.
And by the way, the meat is excellent.
That's good, that's good.
A ver, José, ¿qué vas a comer?
Pronto, isto é carne de mousse, não é? Mousse meatballs, e isto é blueberry jam. Ele disse para misturar. Por algum motivo, funciona muito bem.
¿Recomiendas?
Recomendo, porque este foi cozinhado, o meatball foi cozinhado com ervas aromáticas e combina muito bem com um sabor de caça que o alce tem. Depois metes este doce de blueberry and it just works. É bom? Mas não tem nenhuma razão para ser bom.
Come, come.
Está bom, está tudo bom.
¿Qué dijo que había en cada tipi? ¿Qué dijo que había en cada tipi?
Havia pessoas.
Vamos.
Está bem. Isto não é o sítio onde eles viviam. Onde eles viviam era mais retangular. Pelo que eu percebi, isto é mais para cerimónia.
Ai.